I'm doing good. My name's Matt from East Coast 2. I'm here with Louise Jameson, who played Leela in the Doctor Who show in the 1970s. Tell us originally how you got the part of Leela.
I'd been out of college about 5 or 6 years, and I'd done 2.5 years with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I toured America, actually, New York and Denver and Omaha. They were the 3 places. So blessed, didn't realise how blessed I was at the time. Anyway, my agent decided it was time I did a TV series instead of the odd 1 or 2 things I was doing. So we held out for a TV series, and several came along. There was Angels, which was about nurses. I don't think it ever came over here. Avengers, which I'm sure you know, which was the part that Joanna Lumley got, but hey, we just let that one go. And there's and then Doctor Who, and I'd been up for Survivors, in Survivors, which Pennant Roberts was casting, and I wasn't right for that, but he'd remembered me and called me in, asked to see me for Doctor Who, and gave me the role of Leela. From 60, they saw 60 young women, and that got reduced and reduced till I got it. And also, much later, about 4 or 5 years later, he gave me Blanche in Tenko. So I have so much to be grateful to Pennant for.
Right. What was it difficulty? You were replacing Sarah Jane Smith, played by Elizabeth Sladen. What was the difficulty in replacing her, legends like her?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say how much she's missed by everybody, especially the fans. She was so popular, always the most popular companion. There was no point in replacing her. This is why they went for something completely other. And I got absolutely deluged with fan mail, surprisingly. I mean, sackloads of it when I started. And it was all going, oh, you're much better than Sarah Jane, and thank goodness we've got someone who's not screaming and twisting around, la la la. Oh, hear that laughter? That's Peter Davison entertaining in the other room. So, my head was swelling, and one day the press office got the sacks of mail muddled up, and I was delivered a sackload of Liz Sladen's mail. I couldn't resist opening some of it, and it was all said, this woman's terrible, please come back, how could you desert us and leave us with this awful, violent woman who's got no education? So it was very good for me. It put my 2 feet solidly back on the ground again, and I could,
what was the one episode that really stood out for you?
No question, it was The Sunmakers, written by Bob Holmes, who I think was the best writer of the time. It was kind of Stephen Moffat of that era, or Russell T. I liked it because it was a Marxist philosophy. We were freeing oppressed workers. I got separated from Tom for a couple of episodes, so for once the assistant got to drive a bit of the story. I got to drive that lovely little car up and down those corridors. It was a fabulous cast. We had a really good laugh, really good time. And it was, just an all-round lovely experience. And my second favourite was Talons of Weng Chiang, which I know is a big one for the fans. They adore it. And it just looked so beautiful. And, the Americans particularly are suckers for a costume drama, aren't they?
We are.
So, and I love the Eliza Doolittle element in that. And also Trevor Baxter and Christopher Benjamin, just adorable to work with. And they've been reprised with Big Finish under the Doctor Who banner, so their story goes on as well.
Right. Now, speaking of costumes, I know a lot of fans probably want to know, you've probably been asked a lot, how cold was it to work in that costume?
I know, the costume gets mentioned all the time. I mean, they made her feisty, but they took her clothes off to do it, right? It was really cold. There was one time during Sunmakers, we were on a roof down in Bristol of a cigarette factory, Wills, I think, and it was, I don't think I've ever been that cold, except maybe doing a horror film in 72. That was pretty cold. We were filming at midnight in the forest in November, wearing next to nothing. But anyway, that's another story. I was so cold. For some reason, I didn't have a coat, or my dresser wasn't there, or I don't know. Anyway, Tom wrapped me in his scarf. He used to spin me out, ready to, when they said, we were going in 3 seconds, he'd spin me out and I'd be ready to start.
Your last episode was Invasion of Time.
Uh-huh.
If you had creative control, how would you have had Leela leave the show?
Oh, certainly not that way. I'd have had her die, saving the Doctor's life, and then him having to go back in time and stop that from happening, but knowing that they had to separate because otherwise it would happen again. So it would be a big dilemma for both of them, but knowing they had to part. So it'd be a bit heartbreaking, but noble.
Right, definitely better than how they did it.
Absolutely.
You got back into Doctor Who doing the Big Finish audio series,
Uh-huh.
especially the Gallifrey series, which was my favorite. What's the difficulty of doing the audio series compared to TV or theater?
There's very little difference really, because everything is text-based, springs from the text. I work in a very method way. I believe in, stop me if I get too technical, I believe in having a super objective, and then each scene has an objective that moves towards that super objective. It's very, Marlon Brando's school of work really, except I learned my lines, which I understand he never did. But that is the main difference between audio and theatre or television. Of course, you don't have to learn, so the tendency can be to become a bit lazy. But I'm such a good girl, I really prepare before I go in anywhere, and David Richardson accuses or compliments me and saying how fiercely protective I am of the character Leela. He says he feels like they've got another editor's pair of eyes on the script because I go, Leela wouldn't do this.
Right.
I don't do it often, and I don't have a big say in the storylines, except for the ones I'm going to write, obviously, but I do have a big say in the character. They're very respectful of my attitude towards the work and towards the character, so I feel very listened to at Big Finish. Their work ethic is fantastic.
It is. Now, when you were playing Leela, did you ever think Doctor Who would be as big as it is now?
No, I had no idea. Absolutely no idea. And how blessed am I to be part of it, to be part of this whole iconic time and show and family that that has become us. We're all off to a jazz club tonight.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being on tour without having to do the theatre work, really.
Right. Now, since you do so many of the conventions, is there a difference between the American fan and the British fans?
I think the American fan is more eccentric, slightly madder. There's more dressing up goes on. I think the questions and the interest and the love for the show is pretty much universal. But I think they have if they're bored, they let you know. They'll get up and walk out. There's none of this polite sitting here till the end. But if they're appreciative, they let you know as well. Standing ovation if they feel that you deserve one, they're there.
What are you currently working on now that the fans can see you in?
I'm doing a show called, I've just finished filming Tractate Middith, which is a ghost story, which was originally written by M.R. James, which Mark Gatiss has adapted. He's part of the Doctor Who world, as you must know. He also directed it. The first ever job I got through text. He just texted me and went, "Do you want this job? Are you free?" I went, "Yeah, I'd love it." He went, "Okay." I didn't read the script, didn't go through the agent. It was just fabulous. It's going out BBC Two either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I believe. Okay. So it'll either come over here pretty soon or be able to be picked up somehow, I'm sure.
Good. How do you want Doctor Who fans to remember the character Leela?
How do I?
How do you want the fans to remember her?
I'm so touched by the young women that have come up to me at this particular convention and said what a role model they found Leela. Although she was quick to be aggressive, she was incredibly moral and incredibly feisty and incredibly honourable, and didn't let a man stand in her way. There's a tendency in Britain now to start a sentence with "I'm not feminist, but." I don't know if that happens over here. And then the rest of the sentence will be some feminist philosophy, and you go, do you want to own your own property? Do you want to choose who you marry? Do you want a career? And if the answer is yes to these things, then you're a feminist, because you just want equal rights for equal pay. And that, Leela, we were in the middle of a feminist wave, 76 to 81. in Britain, and I think Leela, kind of surfed in on the top of that, and I'm very grateful for it. So I'd like to be remembered, the short answer is I'd like to be remembered as a strong woman who helped and influenced others.
Great. Thank you for your time, for spending with us. I really appreciate it.
It's
You've
a pleasure.
gone out of your way to help us, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you.